on Lund University in Sweden. So the 3% are very central to this, I believe. You're talking 3% energy, I guess.
Yeah.
But what you want to do is cut power, right? So no, it's the decision is power to make your network limitations, and then you allow this to the extent that it builds to 3% of the energy. Is that
that's pretty much so. It's always translating the stuff, so I somehow always mix up those terms.
But that's about how you do it. Okay, thank you.
So, and it really differs. So our local municipal utility, they need 5% to achieve those goals. So those 3% are more like the average we have for Germany. So actually sometimes for some grids we might even think that in Bavaria people need more like 8.5 or 9%, but it still figures, the figures still show that it pays out actually with all this technology stuff.
Jørgen Christensen, Dansk Energi. Very impressive studies, and I think we can learn a lot. The situation is a bit different in Denmark, that we want to cut peak production, peak load. But my question is, when you make all these assumptions and you get these average big numbers, it gives you a lot of money to work with in a way, but when you go to the local feeder, can you make the business case on the hardware and the ICT cost to say, well, now we invest in ICT equipment instead of reinforcing 100 meters of low voltage cable?
Our model actually would provide for that. But we have to say we just calculated it for the whole of Germany. If an individual DSO says, come on, can you calculate it for our grid? Then we can say to him if it's a business case or not, and whether he should use a different mix, perhaps something like reactive power management or load management will work then. It doesn't work in the general terms for overall Germany, but in the individual case, so it's like your mileage may actually vary, like in the always on a sticker on an American car. But normally we had very good estimates for the overall cost, so it's quite conservative. So I think most of the time it shall really work, but sometimes it's that you also have to say that some grids in Germany are structured in a manner that it doesn't really pay out to run them on your own as a municipal community. So sometimes it's really like you see between those thousands of grids that there should be some service providers from the larger utilities who have optimized processes, control technology, and so on to do contracting to run them. So that's also something where we can calculate a business case based on. And I think we need consolidation on the overall stuff. And I think calculating them will definitely provide to show where we need consolidation.
Yes, I just came up with one idea when you presented this enormous amounts of money to be spent now. Did anybody ask the question, is it now that we change the whole system from AC to DC?
No. so sorry, that's just it. So also what I didn't mention is we were conservative on actually taking into account stuff like storage or electric vehicles. They are not in this. So storage and electric vehicles may or may not change the way the loads are distributed within the grid. And of course, since Germany is quite really conservative, there's virtually no chance of actually doing this approach, sorry to say, because of the existing investments. So people don't want to lose them.
It would be interesting to know if it could pay.
Yeah, perhaps we could calculate it, but it was forbidden in the original scope.
Christian Traholt, DTU. If you wanted to use the solution by placing battery electric storage in strategic places, what would you say the cost would be compared to this?
That's a tricky question because we then don't have the, we desynchronize the generation and the consumption of the electricity using storage, of course. And the problem is that I don't have a good feeling on how actually our simulation models would work then. because we might even have bad effects, because people could save on electricity and feed them in at market times where they get reimbursed more if they will be cut off. Actually, that might work. So we discussed a lot about that, and also about where to put them, because from the density of those model clusters, you could see where electric storage would actually be beneficial a lot. So we could easily see. Also, you could see where, as a terrorism, you should blow up landlines in our model, but we didn't figure out to write this in the study. So there are a lot of places where you say they are crucial for the German grid. And also, you see that they have like some kind of interconnection points, and it would be beneficial to have storage there. But also biomass, this was totally out of scope. And I don't know if we only have positive effects if we use the storage, but that's mainly because German regulation is some kind of tricky when you have to cope with new stuff in the grid. Because people always find loopholes in the individual laws, and they benefit a lot. So that's also with the German renewable energy law. So and in Germany, if you have like a PV field on the ground, you get less than if it's on a roof. So peasants really build like empty buildings just to, wow, there's nothing in. Yeah, but now I can put my PV on the roof and get more money. And so there are always those loopholes, and same's true for storage, and people might find a way to squeeze more out of storage than actually saving for the overall grid. So, but it's a nice idea. We shall ask the ministry to give us money also to run simulations based on that one.
Kai Heusen, DTU. I've luckily had the chance to read this study.
Of course.
And I have to congratulate, it's a very interesting work. You didn't get into the ICT development and the different architectures you've prepared. And there are actually quite some cost calculations which also take the operation maintenance, etc., into account. But you did not go very fast into demand management, and you already replied some of the questions. My question is, from the methodology of the study, is there limitations to what technologies can actually be investigated with the approach that you took? What was the methodology? Time series based? Was it classical?
Not from the ICT perspective. So Marie, you can ask Marie in the study when I'm drinking coffee. She cannot answering the question. We did SGAM-based modeling. So we sliced down all the stuff to individual components and took into account a previous study we did for the ministry in terms of technology migration paths over the time. So for the ICT part, it's quite easy actually to also say there's like a connection to demand response technologies. We need this previous technology, and then we got benefits in the maturity level of next technologies. So I can easily say that the ICT part is safe also in terms of the methodology, because it's M490 mandate anyway. And for the simulation part, honestly, I have to say, ask Sebastian Royans, because the simulation part was mainly done by RWTH Aachen, and I think they can put all this demand response and load management stuff really into their simulation. So it shall be proof, but since it was definitely ruled out of scope for the study, it's like. From my point of view, the methodology should work, but I'm not sure whether I can just spend 2 days on it and give you the results. So it shall be like more fun, because there's a lot of relation stuff to be taken into account. And also, we always had the focus on grid extension planning. That's not runtime. That's not operation. Of course, demand response is really useful at operation, and also making people think more about the electricity and energy they use in terms of being sustainable. So that's a huge benefit, which of course doesn't come into account at operational planning time.